Hi, Mercy. So a couple of minutes before we get started, so shall wait for the others to get in. So I can see our panelists. Mercy is here. Carl is here too. Avni also. Okay, great. So if you don't mind, so let's get started because I know many people are waiting for this moment to exchange with our guests. So really honored and really more than pleased to have our guest speakers all together in this panel. Mercy Miglino, Carl Van Hoy, Abney Martin. So it was a marathon, 2 days of webinars, a lot of insights, a lot of wisdom, and I guess a lot of also questions unanswered from our audience. They were there listening, and they wanted also to share their thoughts, their ideas. And here is the moment. It's so this is the space for really interacting with our guests. So I'd like to start by welcoming our guest speakers. Thank you for being here. And so I'd like to start by really just a quick summarizing from each of our guests on the why of this topic and the main or the key insights of his or her presentation. So I'd like to start by Mercy. Mercy, so you taught us yesterday that coaching is not about the story, it's about the client. So the problem has to be fixed by someone, but our focus should be on the client. And when it is done that way, so we solve the problem from its root. So we work with the client on sustainable changes. So if you'd like to really just get back to that notion and elaborate more on that.
Okay. Well, since this is about business well-being during this time, you know, the impact, the coaching impact on business well-being. First, let me start with, we are no longer in the world, thank God, since the maturity of the coaching profession, that we have to, you know, sort of use anecdotal information to prove that coaching is effective. What we've learned over the year, with about 10 years of research, and this was recently printed in the Harvard Business Review, that companies that offer just training, they will see a 22% increase in productivity. But when combined with,
by someone.
well, somebody's not.
I've asked all our audience to put themselves on mute and really unmute themselves when they are about to talk. So go ahead, Mercy.
Okay. So that figure rises when you combine it with coaching to about 88%. Um, and, let's face it, business is about productivity, it's about profit. And even if the profit is, helps us continue with the business as a nonprofit, any investment in coaching will produce about 6 times a return on that investment. That's an amazing number. So to me, the well-being of a company, those are the stats. That's the facts, the data. What I've seen personally definitely holds up. And I think we're at a crossroads in the world, where everyone is dealing with the same problem. I mean, this is, really extraordinary, isn't it? That everywhere, everyone is dealing with the impact of this kind of pandemic on business. So what keeps your business going during this time? That to me is really the questions one has to ask. How can you create engagement, even if activity is down, even if buying is down? This is temporary, so don't lose engagement with your customers or your client. Think like think like a coach, which is create rapport, continue rapport, be someone who's seen as trustworthy and safe to go to with problems. I think that is, we have an opportunity to create a coaching culture just by the idea that people are working remotely. That's interesting because there are a lot of companies who insist that you're a tush, you're in a cush, to use a little Yiddish slang, which I know is, you have to be a person in a seat in order to be seen as a vital contribution to the company. That's not true anymore. People are working remotely more and more, especially during these times. And you know what? As a result, they're going to need coaching because that everyday connection isn't necessarily there. They may not like working solo, all right? They may be missing the community of work because, let's face it, most of us work for a sense of belonging. And if you take that away, it's going to have an impact on an employee. And I think coaching is the best tool in our toolbox for handling that.
It talks to me what you said, Mercy. So, and someone said once, take care of your people and your people will take care of your business. So, and with that, I'd like to move to Carl. So what do you think of this?
He's on mute.
I think it is very, very, very true. I also observe, certainly in the European culture, that not everybody is already there. It would surprise me. It would surprise me sometimes how much leaders and also leaders at the highest level are still focused just on those KPI reports, on those Excel sheets, on monthly reporting for the headquarters, etc., etc. And I'm actually not judging them on that because, well, that's the way that's the way it works apparently. But it's very, very pity that in that same overview of KPIs, the notion empathy, happiness, coaching, attention for human wellness, attention for human happiness is not always present. And in the best case, some of my clients in their performance systems, they have a column on the form where people managers are invited to note the percentage of time, note this very well, the percentage of time that they actually use, that they actually spend on coaching. So it is simultaneously a happy thing, but also a little bit a sad thing that the notion of coaching that for me is so crucial and so critical In the best case, it's just one note on a on an evaluation form where the leader says, I devoted 27% of my time to coaching. And even then, there's no link between the time you've invested and the outcome of it. So I couldn't agree more with Mercy and with Kais. I just know that in terms of corporate culture and also mindsets at stakeholder and shareholder level, there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah, thank you for that. And going to Avni. Avni is talking about her happiness system, and she's talking mainly about shifting perspective. So how can we shift our leaders' perspective regarding that, Avni?
So, like they say that most of life is how we react to it. Very little of life is actually what happens to us, right? And we can't actually control what happens, but what we can certainly control is how do we react to it? How do we perceive it? So I loved it in yesterday's presentation. You know, we were talking about how you turned, sorry, somebody, I can hear someone. What did you just share?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, in yesterday's presentation, we were talking about how do you see that, how do you see a crisis into an opportunity? And, you know, Ouija comes to mind, you know, Ouija, which is a Chinese, ancient Chinese character, which basically says that crisis is a combination of danger and opportunity. So it's an ancient Chinese character, and all of our Chinese friends here, you know, will be able to attest to that. You know, I can see this Xuan Wan going, you know, it's a beautiful character. So essentially, every time there is a downturn, there is an opportunity. And of course, we are all talking about it, but then how do we manifest that? How do we really, it is there in front of us, and sometimes we cannot see it, it's in our blind spot. How do we then turn it into a practical opportunity? And that's where we can use all of our friends, our coaches, you know, we can get coaching to see how can I then turn this situation into something positive? What else can I do? And so can corporations. You know, we hear about the words like pivoting and agile coaching, but that's essentially what it's all about, isn't it? It's essentially using a crisis into an opportunity. What can we do differently? How can we, companies can save money by not having a physical location. Companies can save money by not spending you know, expenses on business travel. We can do more things online. And we start realizing how little we need to go to office, how little we need to travel, and how much we can achieve without traveling, right?
Yeah, great. So great idea. So as I promised to our audience, so this session, it's mainly about them sharing their thoughts, asking their questions. I know they've been really absorbing a lot of wisdom during these 2 days. So and now it's time for them to share their thoughts. So I'd like all of you to. So I'll open the space, the floor for all of you to ask your questions. But to get some organization, to get organized on that. So anyone would like to talk, just you raise your hand, I give you the mic and so on. So go ahead. So if you'd like to address any of our guests and ask your question directly to all or to one or to all of them. So go ahead, the floor is yours.
So whilst people are typing, I really wanted to thank Xuan Wee because he just shared the JPEG image of Ouija. Thank you.
Thank you.
Which is a mixture of danger and opportunity, crisis.
Yeah, you can ask your questions on the chat, or really you can get the mic and talk. So go ahead.
So there is a question in the chat from Francois about how do we get CEOs to become aware that they need coaching? You know, it's really funny because it's not selling, right? We don't want to go in there and try to sell something. A lot of times what you need to do is figure out what are they experiencing that they would prefer not to experience. All right. What keeps them up at night? And that's the questions I would ask if I can get in front of a CEO. And then talk to this point that, you know, here's what coaching can do that other things cannot do. Because there's a role for mentoring, there's a role for consulting, and of course there's a, you know, a role for therapy if that's needed. What I have found is, just like in coaching, we say, we ask, we don't tell the client. It is a great strategy for selling. So what, you know, what is the experience you want? What are you, you know, challenged with, especially in these times? If you can get that conversation going, then you listening, another skill of coaching, listen to not just, you know, the venting or the frustration, but listening to what is this person's perspective about resolving these issues. A lot of people feel that just that's it. That's what business is all about. You can't change people. You can't change this. What if, you know, what if you could change it? What if, you know, what would it look like to have a more engaged employee, you know, employee workforce? So one of the things that I would add to this is, I'm putting in the chat, there's a book called Spin Selling. Don't ask me the author, I can never remember anything. But it's an interesting approach. It's a sales model for people trying to sell high-end items or services. And you all know that even though you feel coaching is not a luxury, many companies see it as, oh, the last thing, right? You know, especially during crunch times like this. But if you can go in, and this couple of things that I mentioned right now relate to this. Listening, what is it that's keeping them up? What's their pain point? You're really not pitching. What you want to have happen is at the end of whatever time you have in front of these people, for them to say, tell me more. Tell me more how this works. So the book is in the chat box, and it's Spin Selling. I can look up the link while somebody else, you know, addresses this. I think it's a great question.
Yeah, Mercy, if you allow me, I can. I'd like to react to that. So you said you made that kind of really comparison, or you highlight that similarity between coaching and selling somehow. And like in coaching, we listen to not the story, but the feelings. And you mentioned that it's about the pain, it's about the fear, it's about the doubts, the limiting beliefs there. And you show up as a coach willing to solve that thing, right? Mm. But as you know, in coaching, there is no suggestions, no solutions. So we're in selling. So, and I try to speak on behalf of many people here, may be asking that question. So selling, you come to a point when you are about to offer a solution. So what do you say about that?
Okay, so here's a big misconception. The solution, what you offer, is a solution. It's a process that brings about better performance, better rate of return on investment, and also a more engaged, therefore more productive workplace. That's your unique selling proposition. That's what you can say in all, I'd say in all honesty, what it is that you do. You have a process. That's a proven, workable method. You're not in there to roll up your sleeves and figure out where the log jam is. You're in there to coach people through the obstacles, because you have this powerful process that's been around since the 90s. That's what I
would like to add something to that. I've had other careers than the one of coach. And I combine coach with consulting. But for me, coaching is probably the only profession where your client already experiences your product before you have sold your product. It is, well, not to use the word, but whenever I am selling coaching, I am in fact not selling anything. I'm just already coaching the coachee, or coaching the boss of the coachee, or coaching the CEO, except that at that moment, they aren't yet aware of it. I'm just asking questions and listening, and asking questions. And when I get there an entire presentation about our strategy, and then I ask, okay, and could you also tell me what is not your strategy, what you do not want, what clearly you're looking for answers for that you haven't found yet. And then all of a sudden, the very talkative attitude slows down. And there is the moment that as a coach, you can build trust, you can be fully present, you can hold space, and there you're actually selling, for forbidden words, your stuff.
Okay, great, Chair.
I'm going to I'm going to budge in here because I love what Carla said. I think it's an excellent question. And my teaching coaches and coaching them in business, one of the biggest obstacles
Hi, can you hear me? Clients. Hi, how are you? Yeah.
Right, there we go. The biggest obstacle to getting clients is in the coach's head. What belief, idea, thought are you operating? There's never enough. There's no value in this. That's what gets in our way. Of all the people trained as coaches, about 30% ever make it in business. Another great portion of that figure is they never get started. They never start. So that's what I notice in like if I listen to Carl, he has a method, and it's frankly not anything, as he said, it's coaching. Wow, what a mind bender that is. I don't have to sell. I'm not a salesperson. I have to get in there and coach. I know how to do that. Does it take time? Yes. Does it a little bit forced now because you got to do it by virtual rather than getting a meeting? But it still works. Getting in front of someone and coaching the CEO, president, the stakeholders can really help them understand if they experience it.
Yeah, great point. So if I'm getting that, so I'm just paraphrasing that. So the way to do it is just to be in that coaching mode from the beginning. Be a coach and apply the process of coaching, and there the outcome will be really. If really your vis-a-vis is really in need of that coaching, so he'll notice the impact on him. So be convinced, and he'll ask for more. If not, so he's not in need of you. Maybe he's in need of something else, consulting or something else. Avni, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I would really just completely agree with Carl and Mercy that essentially it's not, you're not selling, you're basically adding value, you're basically understanding them, you're listening to them, you're hearing them, listening for what keeps them awake at night, what are their concerns, what do they value right now, what's missing, where is the gap, where do they want to be, and also asking them questions to say that, okay, so this is happening, how do you feel about that? How are you currently reacting to it? How is that helping you today? If you're reacting this way, what's your response to what's happening? And what impact is that response having? Because if they are responding in the best possible way, then that's great. But when we start asking questions around what's your response to the situation that you have in front of you currently, how else could you respond? What's the impact of it? What impact would you like to have ultimately? What's the best impact you can possibly have? Okay, what's the best possible scenario that could ever happen? And how do you then need to respond for that to happen? So essentially, like Carl said, like Mercy said, you're understanding their concerns and you're asking them powerful questions so that they start thinking that, wow, you're just talking to me over a coffee and it's really making me think about what else is possible. So automatically you then become somebody of value to them.
Yeah, great.
So yeah, I loved both your answers, Carl and Mercy. Spot on. It's like you don't have to sell if you are simply hearing people's heart and where are they at and how are they responding to life and what is it that they really want? How are they going about achieving it?
A last learning that I would like to add there is that I have often lived situations where huge strategic changes of organizations fell together with intensive personal changes in the personal lives of their leaders. And that is a really, really interesting how do you say that? Cross point to explore and to coach on. Often leaders that are confronted with heavy changes in their leadership, in their team, with their own boss, with their organization, that are exploring very, very challenging times in their professional life. It happens a lot that simultaneously with that, they're also searching in the private side and of their life. These fall together often, not always, but often, and it's a very interesting area for coaches to explore.
Great. So let's invite our all the people here to ask their questions. So I know that you're full of unfinished thoughts and answered questions. So go ahead. So any question, go ahead.
Yeah, and just imagine we're all together in a nice big room in a hotel and, in a nice hall and having some coffee or having some wine. What conversations would you be, discussing? What things will you be discussing? What's happening for you in your life?
Yeah.
So think of it that way. And I wish we were all together, sipping coffee or wine, whatever that may be.
Wine sounds better to me.
Yeah.
So, hi everyone. Sorry I'm a bit late because also I'm working and trying to manage to connect. So it's pretty daunting trying to manage everything. I'm coach and also NLP master and I'm manager of 14 people. We were very happy working in the office and now we are working virtually. And the well-being, it kind of worries me on my team because some people don't have the same facilities at home that I might have. Like I've got a comfy share. I can have I share the house with my husband, and I have a privacy. My teammates are millennials sharing apartments with other people and they don't have the best, desks or chairs, and they don't have the privacy that I might have. So how would you help them to feel, when you make them feel that we are looking after their awareness? Because I feel like I'm privileged versus them.
So help me with understand the question. So you have in your team, so different, the team members are with different situations.
Yeah.
So you're comfortable at home, but maybe for them it's not the same circumstances. How you can address that? How you can let's really broaden the question. So how to manage diversity within a team, different challenges, different circumstances. How we manage that? How we can use coaching to manage that? So the floor is yours. Go ahead. Carl, Mercy, Avni. So we're challenged with different circumstances. So how can we really coach different people, different circumstances? And I think coaching, that's one of the powerful points of assets of coaching. So whatever so we don't care about the story. So we don't care about the circumstances. We care about what's going on. So the limiting belief. And since I think even with different circumstances, so we can overcome that if we get to the root of that limiting belief, right? So what do you think, Mercy? Go ahead.
Okay, well, having worked remotely on and off my whole life, even I used to run political campaigns, and your team could be anywhere, in the States at the time. So one of the things, I mean, there are two key things here. You have the physical obstacle, right? That Isabel talked about. They may not have an ideal structure to support their work. So if you think about it, what do they need in order to, manage that? They're not going to move. They're not going to, so what it comes down to is this. What can I control as a manager and what can I not control as a manager? And how can I support people who are dealing with distractions, limited space, and limited privacy? And of course, it all comes back down to communication. I coached a few, when COVID started, I coached quite a few people and they were struggling to figure out, they felt like they were working harder because they had to answer emails, because there wasn't that kind of cross-pollination that happens in an office. So there was no picking up information because you were physically there. So establishing a regular check-in with every one of them and coaching them through whatever the dilemma of the day is. If it's, I'm homeschooling my children, so they're underfoot, then you start to, okay, so that's a given, right? So what else can support you in getting your work done? Where else can you do this? A lot of times people get caught up in either or. Either I'm at the office or I'm at home, but there's always a third option. There is an option, you wouldn't believe the themes that come up here. Not asking for help, all right? Let's say there's another partner in the house or a roommate. Asking them, could you, give me this hour by myself quietly? People don't want to ask for help. That's they have all beliefs around that. I should be able to do it myself. The person won't accommodate me anyway, so why bother? No, we have to learn to ask for help. And we also have to learn to be more assertive. What do I need in this situation? I coached a woman the other day and she said, well, I really don't want to ask my husband to take over the teaching because he works so hard. And I'm like, wait a minute, what are you doing? You're working, you're a mother, you're a wife. The perspective was somehow she needed to be less than. All right. So yeah, the event situation, I'm working from home in a less than ideal conditions. Then there's that mindset. In CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, someone, I think it's Aldo Puccio is his name, but he wrote something called Common Mental Mistakes. Common perspectives that get in our way. My mouth is dry. If you Google common mental mistakes, his name comes up. And they show up in coaching all the time, either or. I'm either stuck with the way things are or, and I have to live with it. Control, all right? Wanting control over things they can't control. Expectations. If there is anything this pandemic has told us, is any expectations you had are temporary. And you know what, as I said in my talk yesterday, I think it was, everything's uncertain. We have to double check on what are my expectations grounded in reality? What has me wanting this? What can I do to meet those expectations? And what will I do if I hit a roadblock? So this is where coaching can be instrumental especially if the situation they can't change, they have to change their mindset. And regular coaching support. How you doing? How's it going for you today? It'll go a long way, a really long way towards having them feel connected, maybe having them a little bit more able to handle the distractions.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Evan, if you'd like to add something. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Isabel, I heard you say that how can I make them feel cared, right? You
Yeah.
want to make them feel cared, right?
Mhm.
So, it's something really, really simple. Just ask them how, because we like Mercy shared, we cannot change their physical circumstances. We cannot give them a better laptop. We cannot give them an extra room, cannot take their kids away. So what's there is going to remain.
Mhm.
So perhaps just even asking them, how can I show you that I care? How would you like to be cared for? How can I show you? Just that is enough to kind of make them feel cared, isn't it?
So to answer your question, like I just love to look after my team. Okay. So I have created wellness sessions every Wednesday in the morning to help them to set up their week and their mindset. I do every 2-3 weeks, I do team coaching themes for something that drives their energy, something that is fun, and help them to connect, because some people might not even turn the camera. So I ask everyone to have a camera so we can see our faces. You can see the smiles. I do send, I pick people every day. I send them lovely cards saying, thank you for doing ABC during this week. Like I really try to motivate, and I don't know if I can motivate them, because I think motivation comes intrinsically, but I do try to make a little difference on their day, because the difference between my team and myself, I go meetings every day. I see people every day. They are on phone calls. So the only thing that they get different is my coaching session that week, or I don't know, a little, how can I say, a little meeting. So if you keep the contact with them to make sure that they're okay, knowing where they went on holiday, they know about their family is okay, to know the little details that really makes a difference on their lives, But it's true, the part of physicality, I cannot, it's out of my control.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds like you are doing more than I know any other manager do. I haven't heard of anyone who does such a long list of things for their people, and
Thank you.
So I guess we're not in a coaching session, but if we were, then I would love to ask you, how much do you feel you already care, and what makes you feel that you need to, why this question? Why do you feel that you need to do more? Where is that coming from? I would be very curious.
Possibly because I got one person in particular that he did struggle, but I think he comes with some depression in the background. I say 90% of my people are pretty happy, because I do send surveys every month to understand if they're okay. And possibly the person that feels depression, if he's isolated, I feel the less powerful to help that person. I'm not specialized on depression, and I feel sometimes, what else could I do for this person apart of providing tools or phone calls or counseling lines? But I feel like it's out of my reach.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Isabel. Thank you. Really great.
Thank you.
Good job. So
Thanks for sharing.
I see that you adopt a transformational leadership style. So you're focusing on people, and for sure results will follow. I can see also Jacob has raised his hand. Jacob, go ahead. If you'd like to share things or ask a question, go ahead.
I do apologise, but if I raised my hand, that was probably my mistake. But since I'm here, really,
it was an opportunity for us to talk to you. Yeah, that wasn't a mistake.
Thank you.
Okay, so
well, thank you. Thank you for that. I don't really have a question, but I'm grateful that I'm really here with our absolutely brilliant speakers and all the participants. I've been taking a lot of notes here, so just I'll take this opportunity here to say really big thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. So you're welcome, Doha. You have a question? Go ahead. No question too. So
no, it was just a simple comments about what Isabel have shared right now. It's very inspiring and interesting what she has shared.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, Doha. So any other question, comment, anything? Go ahead. So I see a comment on the chat. So Francois White is saying many CEOs are just concerned about survival. They are very self-protective, not sure if ego is the issue. Somehow it seems that they believe that it's only up to them to find solutions. Leaders who were very open and encouraging participation pre-COVID, now somehow shut themselves up and then come up with what they think will save the business. So let me share this comment and question with you. Is it up to the leaders now to save the business?
Well, that is what they believe themselves, and also what sometimes the stake in shareholders make them believe. But I think that the underlying question is rather one about fear. There's a word ego coming back in the question of Françoise. It is one thing I've seen in the last months is that deep down there in that great ego is a lot of fear. And when I see that some leaders who tend to behave somehow in a macho way, like I need to find solutions, and I'm not only talking about men here, men and women who manifest often with a huge ego in the media, CEOs of huge enterprises. Underneath that ego, more and more is shown a lot of fear. And I think that the real problem for as far as I've coached leaders these days, just one coach, I think that the main theme there is how willing are you, their leader, to face your fear for your job, your fear for your wealth, your fear for your status, your fear for your success, for your reputation, etc., etc. And once that the phenomenon fear has been given a place and a name, in general, the ego becomes less predominant. But there's a lot about fear these days. And just one add, when you look at probably the most narcissistic ego of that we know these days, a certain guy named Donald Trump, if you look at his latest interviews and other weird performances on television, you see in his non-verbal communication, as far as I'm a good observer, a lot of fear, doubt, hesitation. Am I going to win the elections again, etc., etc. Now that's Donald Trump. If we focus on organizations, fear. That I think is the main issue at the moment.
Merci.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that, you know, what you have with, I mean, Donald Trump, he's on the spectrum of mental illness, in my opinion. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that there aren't CEOs that are on the spectrum of mental illness. And I don't mean that lightly, because mental illness is exacerbated by this current situation. If you're anxious, you're tending to be more anxious. If you're prone to depression, you're probably going to experience that. And there's a grief here, you know, for this CEO, they're facing losing something.
Yes.
That's the fear. And what are they experiencing or trying to avoid experiencing is loss, grief. And yeah, the loss is probably some dent to their ego. But the other thing I also find very interesting in scenarios like this is the ego, a strong ego, got the head of this company where they are. Because the ego is always saying, how am I doing? How am I doing compared to you? How am I doing compared to what I did yesterday? And it is a motivator, all right? But unfortunately, when they hit something that they cannot, or perceive really that they cannot overcome with sheer force and will, that's where it gets really sticky. So I think exploring the fear, putting everything out in the open, that's what coaches do. Some people call coaching truth telling. It's not that I'm giving you facts and figures. The truth is, I see, it sounds to me like, or this sounds like somebody who's trying to do this, but this is showing up. You know, you're really observing it, you're bringing it to the surface, you're asking the provocative question. Because coaching challenges the status quo, or it's not effective coaching.
Go ahead. I'd like to continue on that. I'd like to ask our panelists this question. So what's the main, according to you, so what's the main challenge for leaders right now? So what's that main limiting belief? And how can we use coaching to deal with that? So what solution can coaching bring to solve that issue?
I can share something around that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so like in Asia recently, we did a survey with around 800 leaders who are responsible for organizational development. So we've literally, it's hot off the press. We haven't even published the results of the survey yet. They are being created. And so the preliminary results are that, because one of the question was, and we added this question right at the last minute, because we published the survey at the end of January, COVID hit. Okay, COVID suddenly came about. And so, you know, that's at that point, we added this additional question that how is COVID impacting you? So and that's actually an open-ended question. So we don't have a quantitative data so much yet, but some of the things which, and I've got all the data right here. So, and I'm going to read it off actually. So some of the things that have came about out of the qualitative question, not a quantitative question, is stuff like business slowdown. So that's one of the key concerns that leaders have. Around 700 people answered this particular question out of the 800 people. And so they said business slowdown, which basically means tighter budgets, loss of business, redundancies, downsizing, loss of revenue, delays with delivery, putting things on hold. These are some of the things which are shared. That was one of the key, highest number of people said that. Another group of people said things like navigating the new normal, which is around words like new ways of managing people, remote organizational culture, restructuring to respond to emerging business priorities, to focus on welfare and safety of employees. And then so the first group was 20%, second group is 19%, and the third group is 10%, have said that they would want to make organizational development at the forefront of change. So they want to digitize OD interventions. They want to have them more cost effectively now than before. They want to develop more internal capacity for OD. They want to invest in people and leadership and do more people-centric OD stuff so that it kind of feeds into the well-being of the people. So well-being of the people was quite a concern that was shared. Aside that, remote working, innovation was mentioned, making organizations more agile, job design for remote working, online interventions, shifting mindsets are some of the things which are mentioned. So sorry, I couldn't see you all when I was reading it off the sheet here. But yeah, this is the data that's basically coming through. Yeah, that's qualitative. It's not quantitative yet.
Thanks for sharing, Evan.
Yeah, pleasure.
So what do you think, Mercy? So what's that thing actually that is most challenging leaders now in this time?
Was that directed to me?
Anyone, Mercy, Carol, go ahead.
I think we have, was somebody else raising their hand or wanted to speak? No?
No. So,
okay. I just wanted to thank Avni about just what an interesting survey. It'd be very interesting to see the results. And yet, you know, sometimes my mind does this. There's all this information, and sometimes the very perspective, the predominant core belief is that I can or I cannot thrive during this. It's you know, if you really don't believe you're going to make it, then you can have 1,000 suggestions. So sometimes what has to happen is we have to really say it out loud. Okay, this is here. I have a couple of clients that are in event management, which essentially some of it's gone online, but a lot of what these people made their money on, and everybody involved in event management, like restaurants and hotels and conference centers, the way they have done work is going away, right? So I see sometimes a stubborn refusal, it shouldn't happen. It's not fair. Beliefs are, you know, those kinds of beliefs form in our heads when we're like 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. So we start to sound like a kid. But, you know, sometimes you have to say, yeah, it is not going away, you know, and then investigate that. What comes up when I say that? What else could be true? You know, and where do you go from here? Sometimes it really is letting them sit in that fear, as Carl was saying, sit in that fear, you know, and then move into all the possible solutions that Avni's survey was postulating, you know, and survey. Like, I think somebody said that too with Isabel. Ask people. That's the most powerful thing you can do right now. Keep your people engaged. What do you need to keep going? You know, put everybody in the room, no matter what their position is in the company. You know, I don't care if it's 80 people and some people work in the cafeteria and some people are in the C-suite. Ask the question, where do we now? What's our vision going forward? What do we need? Then you can get into, when you hear the what, then you get into the brainstorming and the how. And I've seen this done like with huge amounts of people, especially during the time Homeland Security policy was being developed. We asked everybody, the ambulance driver, the ER physician, the police, everybody, what the vision was going forward.
Thank you, Mercy, for sharing that. I'd like to share something, actually. We have a weekly webinar with HR managers, and we call that in French, coin de GRH. So it's really space for HR managers to come together and think and brainstorm around the current situation. And the thing that kept coming up actually is that. So it's exactly the topic, the title of your topic, of yesterday topic, uncertainty. So it's all about uncertainty and the impact of uncertainty on leaders. So I think they themselves lack visibility on what's going to happen next. So they don't know whether the business will stay or not, jobs will remain or not. So, and that really impacts their what's going inside themselves. So how to manage that situation and what type of a message to convey to the team. And I think the team also, if they keep hiding that and doing as if there is nothing going on. So the team is, the team members are so clever to get that message from the body language, from everything. And they also feel the fear inside that's going inside and running inside there is. I think the main challenge, and that's actually what I got from these weekly webinars, is trust. It's all about trust. And I think here where coaching becomes really important. It's really our gateway to create that, to build that bridge of trust between leaders and their team members. And I think Avni said something powerful. It's all about knowing the things that we do control and the things that we don't control. We have no control over, and talk about that. It's about the way we talk about that in the whole transparency. If we're really transparent, if we're really understanding, if we're really sharing from really an understanding, a caring position. So I think that's the way to move on. That's the way to build again trust. So listening, actively listening to the fear, to all these limiting beliefs coming from the team, and trying to give them the space to express themselves, to think together, to envision the future together. I think that's what among the things that make coaching really powerful. It's not really a top-down solution. It's a bottom-up. It's an inside-out approach. The solution is coming from the team members themselves. Carl, what do you think?
Yes. There's one word that is popping in to me after your words. That is allowing yourself to sit in not knowing. Earlier, Mercy said, allowing to sit into fear. Yes, allow fear, admit that you feel fear, but there's also allowing yourself to sit in not knowing. For heaven's sake, this entire COVID crisis is totally new to us. Nobody ever, I think, has lived familiar circumstances of our generation. And we as leaders or coaches or advisors or whatever would expect from ourselves that we are able to, let's say, in a few months' time, entirely transform our entire lives, entirely transform our entire business into the new world. Well, with some luck, a restaurant keeper has managed to transform his business into a catering service with home delivery. Yes, with some luck. But we cannot expect from ourselves that we just from the one week on the other transform our entire lives, privately and business. With some luck, we will do within half a year or within a year, etc., etc. But I think we should allow ourselves and also our coaches to sit in not knowing and to feel comfortable in not knowing. That is what your words bring into me.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you. So I think still a few minutes left. So I'd like to use this time to give to our notable guests to leave them the floor for the final word. So I'd like to start with you, Mercy. So please.
Okay. Well, I put in the chat this concept of liminal space. It is literally the crossing over is what it means in Latin, I guess. The liminal space, a space where you have left something behind, yet you are not yet fully in something else. You know, right now I picture that there's a door on one side of me and it's pretty much closed. And there's a door in front of me that's starting to open up, but I'm still in the hallway. Now, if you think about that, the first word that comes to my mind is trapped. But if I reframed that, it's a time for thinking. It's a time for reinvention. It's a time for innovation. And pay attention to the businesses that are making it happen. Even if you're a small business or you're working and coaching small businesses, look at what big successful organizations are doing. Yes, they have more resources, but you can pick and choose what it is that they're doing that might help, you know, if you offer it to your clients or in your business. Well, how about we do this? Or how about we do that? I love a phrase, it's from Joan Baez, I've said it before. The only way out of despair is action. What can we do now? It moves everything forward. But you can't resist what is in order to move forward. Like we just said, Kyle and Carl reinforced. Sometimes you have to sit in the mud, in the muck of something. Get kind of even comfortable with it so you're not so frightened of it. Most of us, when we're in fear, we think we're never going to come out of it. And that's what's truly frightening about it. Not that it's going to last 6 seconds and then it's not fear. You know, I want to leave enough time for everybody else, but you know, a crisis is only a crisis for a short time. After that, it's a problem. And we all know how to deal with problems.
Well done. Well said. Thank you. Thank you, Mercy. It's really powerful. Abney, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'd really like to build on Mercy. Mercy, I love the space in which you're sitting, you know, that space in between. I love how you're talking about really not focusing on the problem or even just not resisting it. And you know, like it reminds me of a few things. Like a friend of mine came here for dinner some time back, and he does these workshops on power versus force. And he said, okay, I'm going to demonstrate this to you. I don't know if you have heard of this technique. And he got me, my children, my husband, all of us to demonstrate this technique where he said, okay, I'm going to put a lot of force, a lot of strong guy, very strong, muscly guy. I'm going to put a lot of force on your shoulders. And what I want you to do is basically move your hand this way. Yeah, his name is Lucas. And he says, I want you to move your hand behind. And he says, think about the amount of force I'm putting on your shoulder and move your hand behind. And this is the resistance, yeah? And we did it, and it was really tough, really, really tough. And then he said, okay, now I want you to focus on your center, and I will put just as much force, but this time, acknowledge the fact that yes, there is force. So just like Mercy says, acknowledge, you know it's there, and just like Carl said, you know it's there, but don't think about the force anymore. Think about where you want to go. Think about the end result. Think about what position you want to be in at the end of it, okay? And just go to that position. All right? He was putting force on me. Okay, because we all tried it on each other. Because I was like, when I thought of it the way he asked me to, I moved, and his hand just slipped away from my shoulder because what happened, and I analyzed it so many times, like, how is it possible? You know, because we all tested it on each other. We were putting the same amount of force, and suddenly something happened. And what happened is just something so small like this. That before, when he said, think about the force and try and resist it, and I was pushing against his force, and it was so difficult. And then he said, you know, now go back and don't think about the force, but just go. And what happened is that my shoulders just shifted a little bit. You know, it's just the direction, because now I'm thinking of where I want to go, my direction just shifted, and I managed to pivot. So yeah, anyway, so I think, I think I would just say, yeah, think about where you want to be and keep moving towards where you want to be rather than what's stopping us getting there. Yeah, and we don't have much time, but anyway, some other time. But Albert Einstein's quote came to my mind as well about asking the right question. So we'll move on. Thank you.
Story. Thank you. Carl, last word. Go ahead.
Ula, what an honor.
Yeah, the final word is yours.
Well, I wasn't prepared for that. In my bricks and inside my career, I have a preference for judging.
You said accept risk. Sometimes you don't know how it goes. You just sit and say that's the way it goes. So
it always touches me how wonderful meetings with coaches are, and that is one of the most fine thing of my profession, of our profession. There's no such nice crowd as a crowd of coaches together. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. So with that, we come to the end of our last session. It was really interactive, powerful. I'd like to immortalize this moment. We have really many powerful coaches here present. So it's we don't wait. We won't want to waste this moment. So let's get it for everyone. I think it doesn't happen all the time. So let's seize this opportunity. So let's get a group picture all together. So please, I invite all of you to open your cameras so we can seize this. I see a lot of friends here. You're welcome. I like your smiles. Okay, are you ready?
Come on, everyone. We want to see your faces. Turn on your cameras.
Yeah, come on, guys. Put on the camera. Okay, so let's do it. So
my arm is getting stiff.
Yeah, with the thumb up. So 1, 2, 3. Cheers. Thank you all, my friends. Thank you. Really happy with that. So with that, we come to the end of our session. Just last word. So tomorrow we'll keep going with our sessions. Tomorrow we'll have also an interesting program. We'll have just to remind you of our of tomorrow's program. We'll be having Joanna Visa from Barcelona talking about transformational leadership. Carl with an MCC mentoring session, a second MCC mentoring session. I think with a slight different approach. So we'll discover tomorrow. Also we'll be having Jedi from Singapore also talking about coaching for engagement and happiness, and a webinar by myself also introducing a leverage model for combining both happiness and performance. So I hope to see these beautiful smiles tomorrow also. I keep enriching, I keep being energized by your presence. So this is actually unbelievable, amazing. So hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you all, and enjoy your day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Kai.
Thank you, all of you.
Bye.